In the 1980s, a nationwide panic erupted over Dungeons and Dragons, and the FBI was not afraid of the players. They were terrified of specific ancient mythological words printed right there in the game manual, words that authorities legitimately believed were allowing teenagers to summon actual demons. You are about to discover how a handful of names pulled from centuries-old mythology ended up triggering what became known as the Satanic Panic, resulting in over 12,000 investigations, costing taxpayers $15 million in trials like McMartin, and nearly destroying one of the most popular games ever created. The words that caused all this chaos weren't random fantasy gibberish. They were real names drawn from real-world mythology, names that were once genuinely forbidden to speak aloud. Understanding the real mythology behind Dungeons and Dragons. Monsters changes everything about this story. Let's start with the word that sits at the center of all of it: Demogorgon. If you've watched Stranger Things, you know this name, but you probably don't know where it actually comes from. And its origin is almost too strange to believe. Demogorgon first appears in a medieval commentary on an ancient Roman poem. A scribe, analyzing the text, wrote in Latin that the poet was speaking of the Demogorgon, the supreme god, whose name it is not permitted to know. That phrase right there, whose name it is not permitted to know, made Demogorgon legendary. This was a forbidden word, one that could supposedly get you executed in the ancient world for uttering it in the wrong context. Except here is the twist. Art historians have concluded that Demogorgon is, and this is a direct quote, a grammatical error, become God. The name likely resulted from a scribal mistake, a corruption of the Greek words for demon and gorgon that got misread and then copied across centuries. A typo became a deity, but that did not stop the name from taking on a life of its own. By the Renaissance, Demogorgon showed up in Milton's Paradise Lost alongside Orcus and Hades as one of the dreaded names of hell. He appeared in Spenser's Fairy Queen and Ariosto's Orlando Furioso. And in 1976, when Gary Gygax needed terrifying demon lords for the Eldritch Wizardry supplement of Dungeons and Dragons, he pulled Demogorgon straight from those literary sources and dropped him onto page 37. Two mandrill heads sprouting from twin snake necks, each head with its own mind, one called Amel, the other Hethrodaya, eternally trying to destroy each other, but unable to because they are aspects of the same being. Right next to Demogorgon in that same 1976 supplement, you'd find another name with even deeper roots: Orcus. And if you think the origins of everyday words can't be traced back to ancient death gods, you haven't looked closely enough at this one. Orcus was an Etruscan and Roman god of the underworld, specifically the Punisher of Oathbreakers. His name likely derives from the Greek word horkos, meaning oath. Unlike the more neutral death deities, Orcus represented uncompromising justice and inevitable retribution. The Romans actually distinguished him from gods like Pluto. Where Pluto ruled, Orcus tormented, the entity that made evildoers suffer in the afterlife. Here is what makes Orcus fascinating. He survived, Long after the Roman gods faded from worship, Orcus persisted in rural European folk traditions, transforming into the figure of the wild man in medieval festivals. The Italian word orco became a term used to frighten children. And when an 8th century poet described the monstrous race of Grendel in Beowulf, the word used was orc. You are looking at the direct etymological ancestor of Tolkien's orcs, which means every orc you have ever seen in a movie, a game, or a book traces its lineage back to an ancient Roman death god. So when Dungeons and Dragons put these names in their monster manual in 1977, alongside a third figure, Asmodeus, pulled straight from the Book of Tobit in Judeo-Christian scripture, the game was compiling a greatest hits of real-world mythology that had been genuinely feared for centuries. And then everything went wrong. In 1979, a 16-year-old college student named James Dallas Egbert III disappeared into the steam tunnels beneath his campus. A private investigator named William Deere, hired by his family, fixated on the boy's Dungeons and Dragons hobby as the cause. The reality was far more complicated. Egbert had started college at 16, was manufacturing PCP, and was gay in a conservative Texas family. As one researcher put it, if there was any connection to Dungeons and Dragons, it was that he was drawn to anything escapist because he had a lot he wanted to escape from. But the media didn't care about nuance. The story of the boy lost in tunnels because of a demon game was too good to pass up. The incident even inspired the 1982 TV movie Mazes and Monsters, starring a young Tom Hanks. Then in 1982, a boy named Irving Pulling died by suicide. His mother, Patricia Pulling, blamed Dungeons and Dragons. She sued the game's publisher. When the case was dismissed, she founded BADD, Bothered About Dungeons and Dragons, and launched a national crusade. She described Dungeons and Dragons as a game that uses, and this is her actual list, demonology, witchcraft, voodoo, murder, rape, blasphemy, suicide, assassination, insanity, sex perversion, homosexuality, prostitution, satanic-type rituals, gambling, barbarism, cannibalism, sadism, desecration, demon summoning, necromantics, divination, and other teachings. Her crusade was amplified by evangelical materials like Jack Chick's infamous Dark Dungeons comic tract. She once told a reporter that 8% of Richmond, Virginia's population, were Satanists. When the reporter pointed out her math was wrong, she said it didn't matter because 8% was a conservative figure anyway. By 1985, the panic had reached 60 Minutes. On national television, a representative from the National Coalition on TV Violence linked D&D to 28 murders and suicides. Gary Gygax responded with a line that cut right through the hysteria. This is make-believe. No one is martyred. There is no violence there. To use an analogy with another game, who is bankrupted by a game of Monopoly? But the damage was done. Meanwhile, Lawrence Pazder, the psychiatrist behind the discredited book Michelle Remembers, was consulting on over 1,000 satanic ritual abuse cases, including the McMartin preschool trial, which burned through $15 million of taxpayer money over 8 years before producing zero evidence of abuse. And TSR The company behind Dungeons and Dragons blinked when new CEO Lorraine Williams took over after Gygax left in disgust. Her directive was simple: no more demons or any of that junk. In 1989, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, 2nd edition, scrubbed every mention of demons and devils, replacing them with made-up words. Demons became Tanari, devils became Batezu. Assassins were removed. Controversial spells disappeared. Designer Wolfgang Bauer summed up how well that worked. That didn't work because, oh my goodness, they're the best monsters ever. Every hero wants to take on and defeat them. By 1991, the CDC, the American Association of Suicidology, and Health and Welfare Canada had all published statements confirming D&D was safe. Patricia Pulling died of cancer in 1997. BADD disbanded the same year. And when Wizards of the Coast bought TSR, President Peter Adkison directed designer Monty Cook to start bringing the demons back. Cook, by all accounts, was very happy to do it. By 2000, the 3rd edition had fully restored every forbidden name. Here's what stays with you about this story. The mythological monster words that triggered the Satanic Panic were never dangerous. They were ancient names, some of them literally born from scribal errors, that had accumulated centuries of dread through retelling and misunderstanding. And when a game put those names in the hands of teenagers rolling dice in basements, an entire nation convinced itself that the words still held their ancient power. The real irony? Based on BADD's own estimates, 500 gamers should have been dying by suicide every year. The actual documented number was 7. Meanwhile, the controversy pushed Dungeons and Dragons sales from thousands annually into the millions. More than 50 million people have now played the game. The forbidden name was never forbidden at all. You just had to roll a 20 to defeat it.